the GroomPod. Welcome to our virtual salon. My name is Susy, and I'm your host. I'm a mobile groomer from Seattle, Washington, and anybody who knows me will tell you I love to talk, especially about my job. And one of my favorite people to talk to is my friend and mentor and the co-star of this show, the curator of ingredients, Miss Barbara Bird.
Yo, Susy, what a great day we have planned for today. I can't wait to get into it. Let's go.
All right. Welcome to episode 460 of the GroomPod, recorded on September 28th, 2025 in Snohomish, Washington, Greenville, South Carolina, and
Versailles, Kentucky.
This podcast is brought to you by our kind sponsors, one of which is kind of here represented today: Best Shot, Show Season, Precision Sharp, Groomer, and Stasco. And if you'd like to tip your podcasters, you can go to our website, thegroompod.com, and use the donation button that goes straight to Barbara so she can experiment with new stuff. And if you would like to support the podcast as a whole, you can hit the Patreon button and join us there. This week on the GroomPod, we're getting personal and practical. We're not talking about pets today. We're talking about us. The people holding the shears, lifting the dogs, and standing on our feet for hours on end. This is one of the most physically demanding professions out there. And if you want to have a long, successful career, you have to be proactive. How do you protect your body from the daily grind? And more importantly, what we're going to talk about today is how do you adapt your business for your own needs as you age? To help us discuss this topic, we have Dave Campanella from Best Shot, who sees the industry from a product solutions perspective, and a person who puts those solutions into practice, the fantastic professional groomer and his wife, Tracy Campanella. Welcome, you two.
Thank you, guys. Glad to be here.
How was that for an intro?
We've been excited about this. That was excellent.
I didn't write it.
Yeah, I was looking over to the right, and I'm like,
No, I got some help on that one, although I did edit it quite a bit. Anyway, what's new this week isn't really going to be happening, but it is brought to you by Best Shot Pet. Let me tell you about Best Shot's newest addition to the Ultramax Pro line. Ultramax Hair Hold is a flexible hairspray that can be layered on for a stronger hold. Ultramax Hair Hold spray is great, but my favorite new product is called the Max, and I won't groom without it. It's a fragrance-free ultra-concentrate conditioner and detangler. It reduces drying time and handles undercoat and tangles like magic. Just a few drops in the final rinse or spray it on and dry it in. Contact your favorite Best Shot distributor or learn more online at bestshotpet.com. Grooming success begins with Best Shot in your tub. Made from the best stuff on earth. Did you know that Stasco has come out with a couple of new products? First, there is the Stasco Oatmeal Protein Conditioner. This conditioner provides exceptional body and manageability and super shiny finishes. And it has a wonderful apple scent that I love. Great in the recirculator, too. And they have a new matching protein conditioning spray, dematting, anti-static conditioning, and finishing all in one, just like the original Stasco spray, but with that delicious apple fragrance. Look for these new products at trade shows and your favorite distributors like Cascade Grooming Supplies.
And having the oatmeal in a conditioner is a real plus for me because I see oatmeal as a very important prebiotic that helps to restore the natural, healthy skin biome that gets messed with a little bit during shampooing and cleansing and all the stuff that we do to it. So an oatmeal shampoo is not just for when there's a medicated problem or something, but just to follow the cleansing and the removal that we do during shampoo, to add that oatmeal in there, and it feeds the friendly bacteria and helps to quickly replenish and rebalance the skin biome. Go Best Shot.
Plus, it's not like the chlorhexidine or something like that where it has the dangerous effects of causing bacteria resistance. It's something you can use all the time.
You should use it after you use, for sure, you should use an oatmeal shampoo or a prebiotic shampoo after you use a chlorhexidine or a triclosan or as anything that's antimicrobial. You want to help that skin. I can't say that enough. But you want to be very skin conscious anymore because that's our main trend of the moment. Skin conscious.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right. Ready, groomers? Here comes our first appointment. We're just going to jump right into this interview because I am so excited about it. First time I've ever met Tracy, so I'm pretty excited to talk to her because she's kind of a rock star to me, only because, well, she's Dave's wife, so there is that. There's a lot to live up to there. But most importantly, she got to go to Westminster this year, and I kind of want to hear what that was like for you. Give me your impressions.
Oh my goodness. Where do I start? But number one, when I have my dogs with me, I always expect resistance. But I had a couple of my dogs with us, and everywhere we went, the people of New York were just stellar. Nobody had a negative word. Everybody wanted to see the dogs. Everybody wanted to stop you and talk about the dogs. The real dog fans really, really showed up in the crowd.
Well, this was the first time it was Westminster came back to the Garden because it was over in
It
at the
moved,
tennis court,
yeah.
the Arthur Ashe Arena. So everybody was really stoked about that.
That's a cool place. I've been in there. I saw a basketball game there. And I always think of the history, of course, it's been there forever. And so many things have been handled there. And the horses used to be there. I don't know if they're there anymore. But it was a pretty cool place. It seems like it would be a little intimidating.
Oh, just a little bit. Maybe this next year I'll actually be on the floor with the dog. I don't know. I'm going to try this year.
Is it fun to watch your dog out there performing?
Absolutely. It's like, fingers crossed, and you're just so full of emotion. You could laugh or you could cry, waiting to see what happens.
What was neat is she had a male and a female represented. So Goodfellas is the kennel name, and so there were two Goodfellas exhibitors, I guess you could say, a male and a female. So that made it extra special too. Kind of bragging rights there.
Did you do the grooming?
I do help. Yes, I do. More importantly, I like to mentor, so place both dogs with a groomer. So, that was their base. So I do like to mentor them in scissoring and why you scissor this way and do this that way, so that they learned. Although I would probably love to scissor the whole dog. It's so relaxing. Scissoring is a fetish.
It's a therapy for sure.
It's definitely I can't think of the words.
It's kind of zen.
A meditation. That's what I'm trying to say. It's definitely a meditation. Yes. I find it so.
Isn't that funny? Because I find nothing but anxiety and stress in my scissoring. Alas.
I do start that way. I won't say there's none.
What was cool too is, Kerry Blues are kind of a rare breed, and a lot of the breeders are passing on. And what was exciting is you had two groomers showing your dogs. One of the things in breeding that people forget about is trying to keep the legacy going, not just for your kennel,
Your downline.
but for the breed itself. And I'll also take this point too, as I always give Tracy credit because it's her kennel. That's her, that's all her out there, and I'm just glad to be there. And I'm kind of her kettle bitch when I am at it. at a show, but
No,
I wasn't.
bucket boy.
Oh, that's right, Bucket Boy. That's right. But I was not at Westminster with her. I was back home with the other dogs, but she was with friends. He kind of had a neat thing. He even did some touring and God, what did you do the first day? You were all over New York.
Oh, we shopped. Are you kidding me? With the dogs. We took the dogs everywhere with us. We bought pretty sparkly shoes. You know, the bling thing is in, so our shoes were sparkly. We already have our clothes picked up.
When I was little, my grandfather lived on Long Island and he had occasionally business to do in the city. And he took me into the city and he told me I could buy anything at any of the stores I wanted. It was Sunday and all the stores were closed. It was such a mean trip. Remember back in the day when they closed all the stores on Sunday? Yeah, we went in on Sunday. It was
Yeah.
mean. Okay, Dave, let's pass the microphone to you over there. There's been a lot of flux and change in the product industry. And I was curious what your feelings are on all of the buyouts and trading of hands and people retiring and all of that.
Well, it's interesting. It's getting older. So I guess it's bound to happen.
Yeah.
I know in the case of Best Shot, Mike, who's the president owner, and myself, we still got some time. We still got more to give to this thing,
Good.
but there is a pattern that I've seen going back in my younger years, different companies and watching. When you see companies get bought and sold, it's always a little scary because there's no argument that the founders, it's so hard to match the passion and the excitement and the drive and what build a company and a brand, the passion of the owners and for that to continue on. And some companies can do it, some companies can't. The longevity of a brand and its name is a testimony, I guess, to the founders and the people behind the product. So you hate to see things, and I don't want to get in the middle of too much, with opinions. I'm kind of in a position just kind of observing. And, we've seen some friends. I think, what was it, one of the last episodes you had Sandy on from Show Season, and I love those guys. And I think she did a pretty good job, in finding somebody to continue the brand. Is it going to be the same? Who knows? I mean, you can pretty much say it can't be the same, but is it necessarily a bad thing? And what happens is we all know from personal experience when things go sour with different brands and companies taking over, we know what that feels like. So I guess that's a fear or a concern. But there's also situations where people take on a brand, and a company gets sold and things are better, better distribution, better quality, better whatever. So you hope for those things, but in the end, uh, there with social media, and I think with COVID, there were a lot of crazy things going on, and there was a lot of harsh, bad criticism of different transitions and things, of companies and mergers and consolidations, and but yet they're still selling and people are still buying it. So they must be doing something right, right? It's just a change that's hard, and
Well, we all resist
and
change. It's natural. It's
yeah,
natural.
yeah,
And it's one thing to work with a company where you kind of know the people behind the brand,
yeah,
and an anonymous corporate ownership is just really different. You know,
yeah. It can be, and gosh, I mean, Mike and I, we've had conversations just like, well, someday I suppose it would happen, but then we look around at our own unique thing, and if it ever happened with us, I think it would have to be an outsider liquids business who's looking to get in the pet because what you hate to see with your baby is if you sell it to somebody in the industry, all the other companies know each other, and you worry that you sell your company and by the end of the year, 40 to 60% of the business goes away because nobody wants to deal with that competitor. You don't necessarily, that's a fear that I would have. You selling to a competitor, possibly, but then that may or may not happen. I don't know. But yeah, it's interesting. But the good news is, I guess at the end of the day, uh, business is competitive. There's a lot of products out there,
Yeah.
and if there's a change, there's plenty to turn to if something goes south. And of course, that's nothing new. Pretty much people are that way. If they don't like something, or they don't,
Well,
they don't like the way something goes or whatever, they'll look to other brands. So I don't know.
people up and drop a brand for no reason at all. One little thing, one episode, one something goes wrong, they ditch the whole product line. Like I don't get it because shit can happen.
I do.
But I'm sure it's just because people don't understand what's going on, and so they can't sort through it, and they don't know what to discard or what to not buy and what to buy. But this happened during COVID because what
Mm-hmm.
happened was not only were there ownership changes, but there was supply problems that happened
That's the biggie.
coincidentally. So,
Mm-hmm.
some of the supply shortages brought along problems, created problems that then got blamed on the brand ownership changing.
Mm-hmm.
That happened to iGroom, for example. Like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
they changed some of their formulas at the same time that all of the supply problems were happening, and it didn't make sense to anybody.
Yeah.
They just couldn't understand the changes, and it's very hard to explain global marketing forces and global
Yeah.
supply to people that don't know what they don't know.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And looking back, our company was very fortunate and we were able to handle it with a lot of grace. But I think a lot of that was luck, and a lot luck played a big part of that. Somebody often asks if you had a choice of skill or luck, if you had to pick between the two, which would you pick? And I lean towards luck sometimes, solely because you could do everything right and the world can bite you and get
I
you have no
know, I
control
know.
over it. And that happened to a lot of these companies, and some were able to handle it with more grace than others. And then again, in all fairness, I don't know if we went through that. Maybe me or the company, we'd be the bums. I mean, you just don't know. But you hit it on the head there, that the supply and the sourcing issues were a real thing. But then the other side of that is people don't know what they don't know. And it's not always marketing. The people who complain the most and switch a brand, the younger generation, there's so much for a need for you guys, for me out there, and other people doing education, because they don't even know how it works. They don't understand the first thing. They're all trying to cut corners and save a buck, and they don't know what they're doing. And I'm on a kick now in my seminars. I tell people cleaning's the easy part. And it all starts in the tub, just like our slogan. Great grooming starts in the tub. That's where it starts. But cleaning's the easy part. It's the conditioning where it's at. And people are like, conditioners? That's the first thing they don't use or cut. And I tell people, if you're not using conditioners, you're working too hard. And that's where it opens up the need for education. People need to learn to be more accountable. And there has to be accountability, because working with other people's animals, and these are rinse out products. And if you don't rinse them out, you're going to have problems, you know, itchy dogs, those sort of things.
And talk about people not
Yeah.
liking change. People refuse to change their mind or open their mind and get a new impression. We were just talking
Yeah.
about this earlier today that Barbara changed her opinion on foam. At 80, how old are you? 80 something.
85.
You're ageless to me. Yeah, okay. So at 85, she's able to learn and grow and change an opinion. And we need more of that. We need more of the ability to be flexible and also not throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's getting to be one of my very favorite sayings at this point in time. You don't throw a shampoo line out. You may decide not to
Yeah.
use a product in there, but if they've been good and solid for you for years, why turn your back on them?
Yeah. Track record. If I
That's
can get a
right.
little deep here too, what I think a lot of it comes down to is, the newness of the internet and these forums and everything. I've been, without getting into other issues, but in the world, but I've been looking at reading up on psychology and trying to determine why people behave the way they do and groupthink and things like that. And in psychology, there's a thing called heuristics. Without getting into it, you can look it up. But it has to do with people are programmed to look for shortcuts for answers, and if the internet or a forum says use this product, the brain automatically says, okay, we'll go by that, or Susie and Barb or Dave sounds like he knows what he's talking about. Let's just go with it, and let's take that advice. And sometimes that's good. But what happened during all of this, consumers, groomers, people using this media, you get lazy. And suddenly critical thinking goes out the window. And you guys have been all about critical thinking, and that's
Thank you.
what's beautiful and timeless about what you're doing. And there's a resurgence for critical
Thank
thinking.
you.
People are the younger generation. I have hope.
Yeah.
Some more and more people are starting to ask questions, and ties in with, we don't always have to agree with each other, but boy, if people can just learn to talk and share information and truths
Well,
and
yeah,
things, and that,
how to have an open mind. How to
yeah, yeah,
open it up. Um, I was telling Susie that I bought this book called Think Again, and it's all about staying flexible enough in your thinking so that you can change gears as reality changes. Instead of,
Perfect.
instead of being locked in to something that worked when you learned to groom 30 years ago. And
yeah,
my biggest example of that is some 30 years ago. Like I was trained by a masterful groomer who did show work to always clip and comb out dogs before the bath. It was set in stone. That's the way it was to be done. That's the way that we did it. I believed in that procedure. And years later, when I had an employee that came fresh from the East Coast and suggested that I try bathing them before I clipped and scissored, I almost fired the dude. I mean, I got irate. I was very self assured, and I said, absolutely not. I mean, and he was carrying, why don't we try bathing them? This is what we used to do back on the East Coast. And that just like tripped my wire, and I went off. And I came up within a breath of letting that person go. And it wasn't until I was left alone, grooming alone, and running a retail business at the same time. And I got jammed and I read the label on this fluff out shampoo that suggested to use the shampoo before the clipper and scissor work. And I said, why don't I try it? And I tried it on my own, and there we went. I never looked back. But some people hold on to, they never question how they were taught, you know.
Yep. And with all these new things, kind of getting back a little on track too about the changes in the industry. While all of this is convenient and new, all this information, you still got to make judgments for yourself and to learn. And it's a gateway. And in the early infancy, like what I was saying earlier, when all this stuff starts coming out, it's like, oh, great, I don't have to think anymore. You'd see it all the time online. You still see it. I remember when I think I kind of built a reputation for myself 10 years ago when I would get online, I'd start questioning people and they would say, oh, I was, what was it? What are the terms? I was hounding them or what.
Poking the bear with a stick.
Yeah, and all these other things, and all I was trying to do is just get people to think, to discuss.
To think, I know. Well, see, that's a universal issue. How to get people
Yep.
to think, and because it's very easy to get people to freeze in their beliefs if they get defensive.
Mhm.
They just tie down,
Yeah,
That's a conditioning.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But we're coming around. I mean, things are happening.
I think things are at a point where we're going to start seeing more evolution in our products soon, because what I've noticed is that when I first started writing and teaching about products, it took about 7 to 10 years for something from the beauty industry to get picked up in products in the pet industry. And now, 2 3 years, we're on it. We've got some of these really fancy copolymer cross-linked da 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 and stuff going happening, and new ingredients that are repair forward type products that are entering the grooming industry already. I am just like celebrating this moment because I can name about 5 unpronounceable ingredients that have come in the in from the beauty industry into the grooming industry in less than 3 years.
Well, and I can to add to that, I can share where that the pet industry, with all the growth, we keep hearing about how it's what are we over $60 billion industry.
Huge.
I mean, it continues to grow. You're now getting innovation specifically. I'm speaking in my lane of grooming products with fragrances, and they have developed fragrances that, if you think about it, a dog has over 200 different olfactory senses, somewhere in that.
Yeah.
You can fact check me, but I'm in the ballpark. And a lot of these fragrances, there's no surprise that the dog runs in the backyard and rolls around in deer poop. Okay, he's not attracted. They're not attracted to the fragrance,
Nobody asked them.
but they're coming out with fragrances now that are safe. Of course, safety is a big thing, but the animals are calmed by them or attracted to them or accept these fragrances more willingly, which I think is really kind of a neat thing. The old joke was, you pull out the cologne spray and the dog goes running. Well, why is he running? He don't like what you're spraying on him. We're now at a point where we can start to pull things out that nobody ever asked the dog, because the dogs,
Nobody.
yeah, nobody asked the dogs, and because they can't speak. But now the science is there, where I'm looking at a few, and we've got a few of these fragrances that were really kind of scrutinizing, and they're really not that much more expensive. So it's not a cost prohibitive thing anymore. So I thought I'd share that with you. You're going to see more and more of that.
That's great. I'm really happy to hear that because
Yeah, yeah.
it will become just so they will develop filters that will just
Yep.
lead them to the sense that dogs are more accepting of. Like, you're right, nobody ever asked the dog. I was a groomer when fragrances first came out. And I mean, I remember my first several years of grooming, the fragrances weren't even, they were there, but they weren't a thing. They were just there to mask the chemical scent of the scent of the chemicals. And and then they came out with fresh and
Mm.
clean, and everybody went bananas, and we thought it was cool, and we thought it was silly. Oh, silly you people, especially if you had a foot in the show ring, you really poo-pooed the whole, but we got some and we used it on the pets we groomed. And then a few years later, they came out with colognes, and I just about died. I thought, what the hell is this? Who's asking the dogs? And are we expecting our dogs to be sort of like room wicks?
The walking air freshener.
Yeah, walking air fresheners, or we ask our pets to do so much. And then we ask them also to tickle our delight of fragrances. We make fragrances important on pets. Of course, fragrances first entered the laundry industry, and we got
Yep.
attached to them in our clothes. We wanted to smell like that.
Let me interrupt for a second. I sprayed a cologne on yesterday on my shirt. It's a new cologne. I won't say who it's from. It smells awful today. It was delightful yesterday. Whatever happened, it mutated into something that smells a little bit like rat pee. Kind of. Yeah, I don't think I had the rats on my shirt. I had to think there for a minute.
The dogs love it.
And so you're still wearing it because it's your favorite shirt.
I have 3 of them. I'm not just wearing the same shirt every week. I have 3 of the exact same shirts because when she would make them for me, she would make a variety of the same shirt and then I would pick one out and then she would give the other 2 to me at Christmas. So I have 3 of each of my favorite shades of shirts. So, but it was like when I put this on, I thought, what does that smell? Oh my God. I hope it's not doing that on the dogs.
First thought was you wore the shirt 2 days in a row, but I wasn't going to go there. You can take that. You can take that out. You can edit that.
I do.
Over 50. We don't care.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
It hasn't been pooped on by the bird yet, so it's still a go.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that, frankly, I think that Americans are like overboard on the whole cleanliness kind of thing. Not that I expect people to go around smelling bad, but gotta have some tolerance for it.
Yeah.
Don't have to change your shirt every single day. If you're going to a business, if you're going to the office, maybe, but still, I probably would hang them up and wear them again another day before I washed them. I don't know. Anyway, there's TMI.
I'm going to play a couple of the other sponsors' ads, and then let's talk about how we groom while we're aging gracefully.
Is there such a thing as aging gracefully?
Ugh.
Yeah.
I've heard a rumor.
Show Season has a great enzymatic cleaner called Kennel Fresh. And you dilute it with warm water and it smells good, and then it evaporates to be a deodorant. As the Kennel Fresh dries, it's enzymatic it eats the bacteria and the odor source. So it's really good stuff. You can use it indoors or out.
Find it at your local distributors or showseasongrooming.com.
And now let's hear from the winner of the Barkley Sharpener of the Year, Precision Sharp. The GroomPod and Precision Sharp would like to invite you to check out the newest Precise Cut shear called Lynx. Its patented design features a thumb ring that slides the length of the handle for perfect ergonomic placement of your thumb. Slide it, lock it into place, and get your best grooms on. Check it out at precisionsharp.com.
Hand care and aging. Yeah, hand
care. She starts out hand care. Well, let me introduce the topic here. So, honestly, we're in a really physical job. People don't even have any idea at how physical grooming is. It's like a gymnastics event for me. I'm twisting this way and that way and lifting and turning and spraying and it's hard. And all of a sudden there comes a day where you go, oh my gosh, I'm not 25 anymore. And you got a lot of aches and pains that happen as you're going along. So I was thinking it would be a good idea to talk about some of the ways we deal with aging as we groom. So Barbara, hand care.
Yeah, I think that's something that we don't do enough of, and it catches up to you, and it's too late. Look at your hands. But I have this trigger finger thing that happens, and my hands will like snap like that, and then it just hurts like hell until I forcefully get everything. And now I'm not grooming, and this littlest little thing starts snapping my thumbs and fingers, and I should have had this looked at years ago. I think compression gloves might have helped, and certainly knowing more hand exercises and doing them might have helped. It's like we kind of take our hands for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And when they give out, it's really ability. My scissor finishing took a hit in the last couple of years that I groomed because my hands were so stiff and painful, and my hands got weaker. Of course, it doesn't help that I, for years, pounded on the conga drums with my hands. I mean, pounded. So I can't blame it all on grooming, but nonetheless, my hands are really weak now. But of course, I'm 85. Everything's really, really weak now.
So true. Tracy, I've heard your origin story about how you started grooming from Dave, but I'd love to hear it from your perspective. How long have you been grooming? How did you start grooming? Give us a little history.
Oh, I started my very earliest grooming in 1983. No, I'm not old at all. I worked with a group that just,
Pet store franchise.
can I say that? I'm going to get crucified in some circles.
We say everything. We don't pull any punches here. We name names and yeah, so go ahead.
Okay. At my earliest, youngest days, when I was 19 years old, I did work for a pet store franchise, and they had puppies, and luckily, but my store turned over puppies pretty quickly. But when they didn't turn over real quickly, they started looking kind of rough. The Shih Tzus and Lhasa Apsos, I remember, and the Schnauzers. when they grow out, they look a little funky. But so I just took a adult education class from a local groomer at a pet store, and that gave me my first test of oh, look, this dog looked much better. I look back at those pictures and say, oh no, I have to fix this and this and this. But
I know. But at the time, it looked good. It was kind of, that ain't bad.
but then I found out about the trade shows, and I started going to the trade shows, and oh my goodness, my grooming got so much better because you could see some of the free grooming demonstrations in some of the booths, and I'm like, oh, that's how you figure out to cut here at this length and here at this length. Because what the heck is structure, and I don't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. So that's great. You got to get to those seminars and demos, and that just catapults you forward even more.
And then at the time when the NDGAA was kind of dominated education, and that was the thing, you went out and you really studied, and you went and got certified in all the categories that they offered.
Yeah, getting certified as a national certified master groomer through the NDGAA was a big boost, a big bragging point. It helps you tell your clients that you're into this thing. I tell people that I not only do this Tuesday through Friday. It used to be Monday through Friday. Um, I go on a break, not really a vacation, and I do this on the weekends. I got into dog shows. Does everybody remember Christine Pawlowski and her Kerry Blue Terrier demo? I saw that dog up there and I thought I saw God, or an angel. Okay. I don't want to get in trouble.
For those listening, Chris Pulowski, back in the days of when Oster dominated with their ambassadors,
Oster.
they used to lead the forefront in education.
It just helped me get excited. And
When did you leave the corporate thing?
well, right after high school, I had 1 year in the restaurant business, and that was enough. That was enough to push me into getting something more specific.
Well, no, but she was asking, you were with the pet stores for a while.
Oh yeah, yeah.
She married me.
Did you open your own shop? Do you have your own shop? Do you work for somebody? What is it?
I did open my own shop. We went to, what was that company's name? Score.
Oh, Score. Basically,
What did that stand for?
I
Something
don't
of
know.
Basically,
it was
business people.
offered in Ohio through a group called Cozy, but it was senior, accountants and business people. They gave free advice for new business startups.
And I just happened to mention, well, I have 400 clients. And he goes, 400 clients? He said, girl, go get your brick and mortar. Go, girl. So I guess I just have that entrepreneurial spirit, which really just means do it before you know what's best. just dive into it. Your brain is wired to figure it out. So I just figured it out as I went along, and
we didn't have all the answers. For a while when we had our firstborn Megan, she was grooming at the house, And the business just kept growing and growing because this one here, she doesn't do anything half-ass. I mean, she just goes at it.
Kept growing and growing.
And it got to a point where the neighbors, I think, were getting concerned. They probably thought we were drug dealers, all the cars coming and going.
The people come in and their dogs, they let pee all over your flowers and your lawn and make brown spots. And it's
So
like,
okay. So we were ready. I mean, and when we made the transition into the shop, that the retail spot she leased, I mean, the numbers were there. It really wasn't as scary because we actually were just moving the business from our house to 2 miles away.
It was good. I didn't know any better. I think it's better when almost feels better when you don't know everything before you start, because failure was not an option. That was a big thing.
Yeah.
Failure was not an option. I'm doing this every day. It feels good. Doesn't feel like work. I'm enjoying myself.
Yeah. Passion is a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
I came in at a time when ergonomic equipment was readily available. Barbara certainly was way before ergonomic equipment. And you, in the 80s also, you didn't have any really great ergonomic stuff, but we know so much more now. And there are things you can do way back in your starting days that will really lengthen your ability to work late. But since most of us didn't do that, how are we coping with aging as we groom? Barbara, it's been a while since you've been grooming, but boy, I bet it's like easy to remember what was difficult. The first thing that I noticed very recently, because I'm only just starting to get old, I've decided. I'm not in a hurry to do that. But I had gone to get my eyes checked, and everything was peachy keen. And then I went back 3 years later, like they recommend, because I broke my glasses. And they said, well, you don't have any changes in your eyes. Well, then I left it for 5 years. And when I went back this time, there was such drastic changes in my eyesight. No wonder I was doing bloodlettings with regularity on nail trims. I could not see, and I didn't know I couldn't see. So eyesight is one of those things that goes a little bit at a time as you're looking through your own eyes and you don't really realize it happens. But as we age, sometimes those changes can be drastic. And one of the ways that I kind of try to combat it is I have a lot of light in my grooming trailer. It's lit up like a surgery suite in there. And it wasn't as valuable when I started, but boy, now I am so grateful for that light. And having contrasting colors behind my dogs, behind my table, colors that dogs don't come in, I find that's pretty helpful. But the big thing here is get your eyes checked. Get your eyes checked. Did either of you guys have problems with that?
I've had awareness of that, but I had more structural problems. Like my feet were the start of the beginning of the end for me, because my feet started hurting me and I started having back problems like in the 90s. And I had to first I had to change into work shoes because I was just wearing any old thing as long as they weren't open-toed. I mean, but I even remember when I wore just sandals to work. I mean, God, the first work shoes that I had were bowling shoes from the bowling alley that I rented and wore out of the place and used that while I was grooming. I did that. That was in the beginning, very beginning, when I had no money, and I was working for 30% of nothing is nothing, like I was bringing home like $12 a week and like that. When I had to get shoes to work in, the bowling thing was happened. It was very helpful, at the time, but it wasn't good to spend a lot of time in those kind of shoes. And it wasn't until a long time later that I started taking care of my feet. And if I was to go back and do one thing different, it would be to start taking care of my feet and stop worrying about what my feet looked like and started going for the long term on my feet because of ultimately it forced me to sit down to groom. And the last 5 years that I groomed almost consistently sitting down and then just standing up for a few little over the top of the head like finishing moments. um,
It's doable.
yeah, it's doable. And what I did is I started teaching people to do more sit down
Mhm.
things, especially like drying. You can do a lot of drying sitting down. Um,
Mhm.
you don't have to stand up and loom over the object to do a good fluff out drying. And you can just find places and times in each groom where you can be successful sitting down. And I think that helped me a lot I mean, I was 83, almost 84. I would have been 84 the following month. So I can say that I groomed up to 84. And that's
Yeah.
pretty good. I was going for 85, but I had to, but I set it up so that I really had to quit. I mean, I finally had to, as I have in all of my life, I had to kind of self-destruct in order to quit. And that happened with me with my first career in social work. I had to self-destruct and then rise from the ashes, the phoenix that I am. And I had to retire that way too. So I had the rat friends, and I just had a lot of things that were not working in my shop. Um, I had rats in my shop, and I couldn't kill them. And they were black and white. I love
They
freaking party color.
they were the most beautiful groomed rats in all of Phoenix.
These were the cutest, prettiest. I just couldn't believe it. And they colonized my place, and I kept accommodating them, buying more cages, and I just was buying tons of food. And and it finally became unbearable.
So would you say having an exit time or an out would be something to plan it in your grooming?
Yeah, yeah, but you need to reevaluate that because I would have just plugged along for another year. I really wanted to make it to 85. And, I almost really self-destructed. I mean, I had heart problem. Like it was not good when I stopped grooming. It took me a year and a half to really get on my feet again. And I should have quit probably when I was about 80.
Tracy, do you have foot problems?
I had foot problems for a period of times. My arches are so high that it's ridiculous. Um, Nursing shoes. I started out in nursing shoes, and that was good for a period of time. And then your feet change. There's fallen arches. I started going to a chiropractor and paying attention to when some of the social sites would talk about different brands of shoes. That and a chiropractor and an inversion
I've got
table
one of those.
was really good. That got me actually that replaced a chiropractor for a little while. The inversion table, which you can get on marketplace used
Yes.
much more reasonably. Uh, And that, you invert yourself, feet up, head down, stretches your spine back to where it's supposed to be. I mean, gravity takes care of it all, stretches you out.
Small disclaimer, if you do choose to use an inversion board, do not turn yourself upside down without someone in your house that knows you're turning yourself upside down.
I think I go not completely up and down, but
Oh, I go straight up and down. I'm an all or nothing girl.
yeah. But when I had opened my own shop, it didn't take very long for my feet. They were killing me. They were absolutely killing me. So I went to found the floor mats. That really changed, as well as I started out with stationary tables. I moved to hydraulic tables, and from a stationary tub to a hydraulic tub, and even better dryers, better shampoo. I remember when I was a vet assistant, the vet was suggesting Breck shampoo. Y'all remember that?
For dogs.
For dog shampoo, Breck shampoo.
Got it at Costco cheap.
Yeah. But I moved to Oster shampoo and, on from there. Then I met Bill Marshall, the founder of Best Shot. And it took 2 or 3 trade shows talking to him to where I finally got onto his products. There were only 3: shampoo, conditioner, after spray. You can still do pretty much everything with that. But going to trade shows, getting education, talking to other groomers, finding out what they're doing, that all played a very important role in your body feeling better.
Yeah, you did get some carpal tunnel surgery a while back. Which hand was it again? Her left hand, fortunately, not her scissor hand. And over the years now, I think there's things that pop in my mind that I know that she does now.
About 10 years ago, I started doing only small dogs, which was like 40 pounds and under. And then, I go from that to 25 pounds and under I am currently. That has really saved me. I am just about 62, and I'm still in fairly good grooming condition.
Good.
Fingers still go numb.
Good.
Still have to ice my lower back.
She doesn't do poodle feet anymore. She finally said, "I'm not doing poodle feet
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah, because that's
Saves your
killer.
neck.
I remember letting go of the big dogs. It was really hard. And because I love big dogs, I not only had big dogs, but I had 40-pound bags of food that I'm putting up and taking down and carrying out and all of this, so I was doing a lot of weight, and I took myself for granted. I figured that I could do that for the longest time, but finally I just got so tired. I didn't realize I was stressed until I stopped and took a look at it. But, and I remember that I had an ear deal, and for some reason, it wasn't my fault, but I ran into the Air Deal's owner at the store sometime after I groomed it, and she said, "What happened last time with Millie or whatever her name was?" And she was lame after grooming. She said, "I think you're too old to groom my dog anymore." Boy, I hated hearing that. And but that was like 3 years before I stopped doing large dogs, and I stopped doing heavy dogs and kept on doing standard poodles because I was a standard poodle groomer, and I did beautiful standard poodle work. And the man who taught me how to groom was a standard poodle breeder. So the standard poodle was kind of in the pipeline, built into my being a groomer. I finally had a single standard poodle that was so difficult on the table that I couldn't groom that dog anymore. And once I stopped grooming that difficult standard, it was easy enough for me. Within months, I just stopped all standard poodles. Sorry, I can't do them anymore. And that made a big difference because, of course, then standard poodle, not doing standard poodles and starting to do small table sized dogs allowed me to sit down the whole time. And I would just stand up to check out my top line and just like a final go over and stuff.
I think we all drop the big dogs at some point in time because I've also dropped the big dogs.
To save your career.
And it can be 5 years in for some groomers and 45 years in for other groomers. And, like it's going to vary. But you've got to realize, you've got to be able to accept that you have those limits, that you don't need to push yourself past the comfort zone just because, I used to think that I had to do toenails on every single dog that came into the shop. And I had some wrestling matches down on my floor, wrestling with German Shepherd dogs while the owner stayed there and said, "You can do it, you can do it," and there I am on the floor wrestling with a damn 80-pound shepherd dog because I was supposed to do it because that's your job.
You're invincible.
As an observer in my capacity, and what I've observed, like with Tracy, when she owned her own shop, she had people and then employees. And if you're fortunate enough to have employees, there's a point where maybe for some groomers they may just need to start managing. But the big thing I notice is the older, more mature groomers, the wiser you are, they tend to charge more. Their time's valuable. The customers, especially the old fart customers, they're looking for the dumb, young, naive girls that'll do it for nothing. Because what happens is as you get older as a groomer to the marketplace, there's a portion of people, I don't know what it is, but they figure, they're going to be more expensive. I got to find somebody younger, cheaper, somebody dumb who doesn't know anything. I can cheat.
Somebody that doesn't know better,
well, and I say that because just recently she had somebody tell her that, I'm going to go back to my original groomer because they didn't like the fact that they paid whatever for their dogs.
Continental cut on a poodle. They're going to go back to their old groomer that does it for $60.
$60.
Bye-bye.
So
adios. That's I used to have that. I specialized in Bichons for several years, and I did a pretty decent Bichon, and it was in this kind of show style, and I had that pretty much knocked down. And I used to teach Bichon grooming, and I got to charging more and more because I got to realize, but becoming the Bichon specialist was one of the stupid things that I did because those dogs are time consuming. There's no gravy in Bichon grooming. That's when I went back to being a terrier specialist because, hello. And then people would say, well, my groomer just charges me 25.
yeah.
And I was charging like 50. I'm saying go. Like, God, you got a good price there, girl.
Now,
That groomer's going to wear out and go away.
now the difference is the customers that Tracy does maintain, they can see the difference. And that's why they go to Tracy because at the end of the day, that there's, thank God, there's still people who can see they're getting what they pay for, and they get it.
I remember the days.
I still hear from some of my customers will text me and say, "Oh God, Barbara, nobody does it like you did," and they've been to like 3 groomers since I left.
Or you can go the way I went, which is behavior dogs, and people will pay anything you ask if you can do their dog comfortably. So I want to mention that when we all drop off the big dogs, to continue in the career, it really is smart for us to do a little strength training, to do a little cardio, and most importantly, to do some yoga, stretching type stuff to keep flexible so we can keep doing our thing. And here's something that most people never think about getting older in our jobs. There comes a point in time where you might have to care for your spouse. If you have your own business, you have the ability to manipulate your schedule and share that information with your customers. And as they age with you, I know my client base has aged right along with me. They are sympathetic and will support you when you need to stay home and take care of your spouse, or if you get injured, because those are two things that are a real reality as we age. Make sure you use all of your support things on your table. I work alone, so I need to use my groomer's helper, my lip system, all of my ability to maintain the table divider is a huge one for me. Since I'm doing small dogs, I don't want to lean over my table into the back corner. So these are all things that'll help you not break down as fast. If you start them early, that's all the better. But if you've gotten to this point, or if this is your second career, the deterioration can certainly happen a little faster than you expect.
Oh, a very important thing we haven't talked about yet is your hearing. Back in the day when I was in there with, 40 puppies barking, and at the kennel when there's, 100 dogs barking, you didn't have hearing, what do you call it?
Protection and
Yeah, nobody told me about that. Nobody provided me anything with that. But now, as my hearing has failed, oh, that's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah.
When you lose your hearing and you can't hear a lot of those precious little sounds that you do.
And a tip too, if we're fortunate in Kentucky, they have some vocational programs, where you can get assistance with hearing aids, because hearing aids are brutal.
You become disabled or partially disabled and eligible possibly for help with hearing aids so that you can be employable. I got my last hearing aids free, absolutely free. And, they cost 4 digits,
It's ridiculous.
Gracefully.
I know. I have 2 different sets of hearing aids, and I don't like either one of them. And I resist them, and I forget to charge them, and I just can't get in the routine of using them all the time. And I go out with people, and I can't hear a thing they're saying, and I'm faking it. I'm faking it.
Well, what
I'm nodding my head and smiling, and yeah.
You lose a lot of your ability to be social.
what I can share too as an observer, Tracy is hearing impaired. She has to wear hearing aids. And there's a point where she didn't realize it was as bad as it was. And it affects conversations. You miss out on so much of what's going around. It affects how you perceive others, how others perceive you. I mean, it ties in with depression, other things.
Amen.
Depression and anxiety.
Yep, yep.
And I don't get to hear all those low, sexy tones that you use occasionally.
Yeah, when I lower my voice, she can't hear me.
Yeah, I'm lucky in that I came along late enough that I have been wearing heavy duty hearing protection through the entire grooming process for my entire time grooming. So I can still hear it. Now, I, like Dave and Barbara, have done plenty of damage standing in front of massive speakers at rock shows. So I'm sure I did some damage there. Also, driving around with my stereo so that you could hear it in New York from Seattle. I've done that as well. But as I've gotten older and I've realized how valuable hearing is, I am really grateful that somebody very early told me to put stupid plugs in my ears. And then quickly after that, I went to full on gun mufflers and I have worn them ever since. So I can still hear. My husband, not so much. I don't
Yeah,
know.
well, like some people resisted. I used to bags of earplugs for people in the back room who were grooming the dog. They would never wear them. Never. I was the only person that would use the darn things. And, I mean, you can't fire somebody because they won't use earplugs. I'm not that kind of a boss. But
They wouldn't hear you anyway.
but it made me so sad that that these people can't realize that decibel level. Like now I've got an Apple Watch, and it will tell me even when my dogs start barking too loud. It will give me an environment noise warning alert. It's too loud where you are.
Yep. For those listening who like to play their car stereos too loud, if your shirt is flapping from the sound waves, it's too loud, or the rust underneath your car is a hint that your speakers are too loud because you're shaking your car. You're shaking the rust out. But just some tips.
The last thing I want to mention, well, the last couple things I want to mention is after you've been in the industry for a really long time and things are changing around you and you're losing your hearing and your feet hurt, you might tend to get burnout. So make those adjustments in your own personal business that allow you to continue to love what you do, because we are really lucky to do what we do. And I don't know about you guys, but well, Barbara is my example, my shining example. I do want to groom till I'm 85. And I can't imagine not having that purpose in my life. And so I need to stress the nature that our injuries are cumulative in nature. They will get worse if you don't tend to them. So what you do in your first 5 years matters 20 years later. And make sure you manage your expectations and know your limits. Anybody want to add anything else?
I think that what got me through the last few years is that I worked with an assistant. And even though I had gotten used to working alone and I liked my work better than their work, having a bather, and it was a bather assistant. She would actually bring me the prepped dog and put it on my table. And then I just had to go from my table to the front counter to see the customers. And I could do that real easily and comfortably. And that's where it gets to where sometimes you have to open your mind and realize that it would serve you to use help, to train someone. And I know I have a friend who's a groomer, and she is working. She's like, I don't know, late 50s, early 60s, and she's doing 12-hour days because she's too picky to have a helper. She can't stand sometimes they fall short. And you either become this grumpy, horrible boss, or you just accept that. I finally just got to where I kept a hand dryer on a groomer's helper thing at my table so that I could just finish off the finish a little better, because in the back they weren't doing it quite good enough. The backs of the back of the ankles, they weren't lifting the feet up and doing it that well, and there was just little spots that would not be to my liking. And I could just take 5 minutes, sometimes 10, and just fix it the way that I liked it, rather than just keep on this broken tape of taking dogs back and trying to get them redone and all like that. Just that, but sometimes it just can really help if you refigure what you're going to do. Raise your price and hire a bather.
Yep.
And manage your perfectionism issue. There's underlying issues there.
Yes, thank you. Yes, your perfectionism issue. And the perfectionism will keep you from never being done with the grooming, never.
Opening your mind.
And you've got to learn to see kind of from your customer's eyes as well as from your own eyes, because customers are a little bit easier on you than you are.
And to kind of sum up too, again, as an observationist and what I've seen, the neat thing about grooming, and I'm not a groomer, I'm married to a groomer, but you have the passion. Everybody who grooms has a passion. And the nice thing is you can do this do what you can for as long as you want. We were watching something on TV, drinking coffee. I'll keep this short. But it had to do with Africa, and they were trying to get the Congo going, and they were looking at the ants, and there was a scientist. He was 84, and he's still out there doing his thing, seeing the ants and going to the earth and film,
Being in the Congo in the first place.
yeah, being in the car at 84, but you do what you can. And if you can do it, there's ways of doing it longer, but it has its limits. But what other profession can you still have your hand in it to some extent? If you can own a shop and mentor, or if you can, go to a few dog shows on the side. That's the neat thing about this profession. And, you can still manage a clientele just for shits and giggles, and a little spending money, a little gambling money for the slot machines, whatever it is you want to do. And that's one of the neat things about the industry that I see. And I see a lot of people, doing that. So that's encouraging.
And if you don't want to groom when you're 85, 20 years ago, start a retirement fund. Do that for yourself, because that gives you the freedom to stop when you want.
Yeah.
Yep.
Please, if you get to the point where you hate work, stop.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't do you any good. It doesn't do the pets any good. Doesn't do the people a favor if you're grooming and you are secretly hating it.
And listen to your body.
That's all you got.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye. Take care of yourselves, because we love you.
See you guys.